Hey folks, Wally DM here, and today we're going to take a look at a trap that has already been triggered when the characters arrive. This is a complex magical trap that we're going to run on an initiative count, and that initiative count is going to begin when the characters arrive at a toy shop and see a lot of concerned citizens standing outside. Now the written version of this trap is going to be published in the Quintessential Guide to Urban Encounters. If you'd like to have this encounter along with several others that are just like it that you could easily drag and drop into your city or your urban campaign, then be sure to back our Kickstarter. I will put a link in the description below. Now let's get started with this complex magical trap that I like to call puppet strings. So this trap could easily be dragged and dropped into your urban campaign as your characters are walking through the city. When you're ready to run the trap encounter, read the characters the following. A small crowd gathers outside of the toy shop. Their faces a mix of panic and disbelief as they press against the windows. One concerned citizen rattles the locked door, then slams their shoulder against it in a desperate attempt to break it open. Roll for initiative. Now, of course, when we begin this encounter, the players have no idea what's going on. They can either force their way to the front to try to look through the window, perhaps they can ask someone that is standing by, or they themselves could take the place of this concerned citizen and try to get through the door. If the characters do try to get through the door, they can either unlock the door with a successful DC 15 dexterity sleight of hand check with thieves tools, or they could force it open with a DC 15 strength athletics check. If one of the characters were to be able to move the citizens aside and get to the window and look through, they're going to see the toy maker inside flailing around helplessly. His limbs are being jerked in unnatural puppet-like motions, and there are spectral strings that are extending from his wrists, ankles, and head, and they are yanking him around in a grotesque dance. They would also be able to see that his face is flushed, his movements are frantic, and it looks as if exhaustion is rapidly draining the life from him. And in fact, since we've already hit initiative count 20, the toy maker has one level of exhaustion. Now once the characters are able to use their actions to either break down or pick the lock to the door, they're going to enter the toy shop. And now that the characters are inside the toy shop, they're still going to see the toy maker that is dancing around frantically. Again, there is a spectral puppet or marionette cross with strings that are attached to his body, causing him to dance. And the characters are going to need to quickly find a way to help the toy maker before he falls over from exhaustion. Now also when the characters enter the shop, they're going to see on the table in front of the toy maker a small puppet marionette stage and a marionette that is dancing on top of the stage. And by seeing the movements of this puppet, they can also see small spectral strings and a marionette cross that is hanging over its head, and it is making dancing motions identical to that of the toy maker. Now, if one of the characters were to come up and take the puppet off of the stage, it's still going to continue to dance, but nothing's going to happen. And in fact, it's not the puppet that has triggered this magical trap, but it's actually the puppet stage itself. Now, just as a reminder, we are on an initiative count, so all the characters are going to need to take their move and their action on their turn. But when we do get back to initiative count 20, any creature that is within 15 feet of this marionette puppet stage is going to need to make a DC 15 wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, a spectral marionette cross along with puppet strings is going to attach to that character, and they are also going to begin dancing around. While they're doing this, they are incapacitated, and they need to use their full movement in order to dance in place. At the end of their next turn, they can attempt the DC 15 wisdom saving throw again, and if they succeed, they break free of the spectral puppet strings, but if they fail, they're going to gain a level of exhaustion and continue to dance, being affected by this cursed magical trap. Now, one more important thing to note is that the spectral marionette cross with the strings are incorporeal and they cannot be interacted with. The only way the characters can get rid of those is to disable the trap at its source. Now, once the characters are able to ascertain that it's not the puppet that's the source of this magical trap, then they can take a closer look at the puppet stage itself, and doing so is going to reveal two faint, glowing glyphs that are on the bottom of this puppet stage. Now, these two glyphs can be dispelled with 2 castings of Dispel Magic or 2 successful DC 15 Intelligence Arcana checks. Each of those are going to require an action. Now, this toy puppet stage is immune to non-magical damage, but it can be destroyed by dealing a total of 50 damage from magical weapons. And once the stage is destroyed or the glyphs are dispelled, then the curse is broken. But let's not forget that each character is going to have to make their checks or cast their spells using the action on their turn, and if they are affected by the magical trap and attached to those spectral strings, then they are incapacitated, and at the end of their turn they can attempt to break free. And on initiative count 20, our trap will trigger again, and any creature that's not currently affected will be targeted and need to make that saving throw, or else be attached to the puppet strings. Now, alternatively, if the toymaker is removed from the room and no creatures remain within 15 feet of the stage for at least 10 minutes, then the trap is going to reset and become dormant until triggered again. So how exactly did all of this begin? Well, our toymaker had purchased this cursed puppet stage from an estate sale, and when he went to test it out by placing a little marionette on top of it, that was enough to trigger the trap. So now the question comes for the characters after this whole event: what do they do with this cursed puppet stage? Do they take it with them? Do they seek a way to destroy it? Or maybe they give it to someone they don't like? Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what your character would do in this situation. So that's all I have for you today. What did you think of the trap? Is this something that you would put in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? And be sure to follow the link below to go over to our Kickstarter page and help us fund the full project. There's going to be a ton of great stuff in here for your city or your urban campaigns. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.